Erik, Mann, episode 6 of Jay's Talk. First alumni episode. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm all right. You're on break right now. How's that been?
Good. A lot of time with the family.
Enjoying that a little bit? Yeah.
It's nice for me.
It's a little different going from like the week and a half you get in high school to like the month you get in college. I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
Struggling to find things to do.
Yeah, you kind of get bored a little bit, don't you?
Bit.
Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. So, your time here at Merrill High School, you played a couple different sports. Okay. We played football, baseball, and then we ended up doing some track at the end too, right? Okay. So, first one I want to talk about is football. All right. I know baseball was your kind of like first love, first sport, right? Why football though? Like, why did football kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say like steal the love from you, but like kind of like took a hold of you, right? Like, why football?
In general, I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff.
Okay.
For making a very difficult sport one that's enjoyable. I think anyone that's gone through the Merrill football program could attest to that. That not only is it the most difficult sport you can play, but it's they make it something that you want to keep coming back to practice and grinding out. And then I feel like the culture around football is different than any other sport. Um, the level of accountability you have for yourself and others.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not something you have in any other sport. You get to fourth down and you're exhausted, but the guy in front of you is exhausted, the guy behind you is exhausted, and you got guys around you. Hey, one more play, we need you, just one more, and then you do that to other people, and then when you get through that one more play, get the results. It's really cool to have that system around you and that translates to real life. And
it's a brotherhood.
It is. It really is.
I think the only like sport that I can like compare the like you said, the accountability that you get with football is like wrestling.
Yeah.
But with wrestling, it's a solo sport, right?
Exactly.
Football, like you can be the best player on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if your brother in front of you doesn't do his job, it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. It's very unique, like you said.
It really is. It's and being that you're around 11 guys, not only do you get to hold the ones in front of you accountable, people are also holding you accountable.
Yeah.
Hey, you need to keep doing your job. Okay, that sits in there. Okay, now it's for my guys.
Yeah.
This is no longer a me thing. Now I have to put my pride aside and get this done for the people around me.
No real egos in football.
No, there can't be.
No, there can't be. I love that. So we kind of talked about it there a little bit, but football teaches you a lot of lessons, right? A lot of sports do, but football teaches you kind of some unique ones. What would you say is one of the most impactful things that football taught you?
I feel like any football player would tell you that you learn accountability and discipline. It's just kind of the nature of the sport.
Yeah.
My senior year specifically, I think I really learned selflessness. When we had a heartbreaker against Crandon our second weekend.
Oh, that hurt, man.
That one was tough.
And, that hurt.
You could tell that was kind of a turning point in the year, and we ended up having a winless season, which really hurt. But by that second week, I was putting up some pretty decent stats, but we were still losing. We weren't getting any results, and I had to sit down and kind of look at the mirror and say, what's more important to me? Is it pumping my stats as much as I can and trying to be the top all conference player, or should I help us try to get some more wins? And in the end, winning was more important to me than just putting up stats. So the rest of the year, I dedicated a lot of my time to helping the younger guys and paying attention to film and looking at other schematics and passing down knowledge and things like that. So to sum it all up, I guess I could say selflessness.
We're seeing some of that kind of in the culture right now. And we did go 0-9, right? And that sucked. And that week 2 game was kind of like that crux of it, right? But I don't think you can look at that season as 0-9 and it's kind of like when you lose close games. Like, yeah, you lost, but like that might not be the whole story, right? Like we played a lot of tough games that year,
Really,
and you guys fought. And
Rhinelander and Ashland were one-score
yeah,
games.
yeah,
Brandon was a one-score game.
one score, and on the last play,
drive, yeah, very last play of the game.
right? And I don't think you should leave out the fact that after going 0-9, you put the coaching cap on, and we did not go winless that season. It might not show up in the record books that we won a game, but you helped the program get a win at the end of the year, and
I'm happy to say I was a part of it.
yeah, and that group of kids that you passed down that knowledge to, right? Just went 5-4, right? Went to the playoffs,
and almost had a playoff upset.
Yeah, and you helped coach in the camp with that, right?
I did.
So, program thanks you for that.
I thank the program.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's hard not to have regrets with stuff, right? Especially going 0-9, like thinking about what you could have done differently, right? It doesn't have to be specifically to your senior season, but if there's one thing you could go back and change, or maybe not change, but do a little differently, right? What would be that one thing that you can maybe look at and be like, if I had to do it now, this is the way I would do it?
I didn't realize until my senior year how important film study was. I did pay a lot of attention to film, but I don't think I watched it the right way. I spent a lot of my time watching film from sophomore to senior year, looking at myself and, hey, I messed up on this play. Okay, how do I prevent that in future games, things like that. What I should have been looking for on film was the things that other teams were doing and looking for tendencies and patterns and things to look out for. I mean, not that watching yourself isn't important. You learn the best by seeing yourself, and especially see yourself make errors.
Yeah.
But I could have been a much better player had I paid a little more attention to what other guys were doing.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like that selfless part, right? Like you go from watching like, how can I get better, instead of like watching and being like, okay, how can my defense play this play better? How can we move as a team to do this better? I apologize for the interruption. Turn your mic on. Button on the back. Hold the button on the back there. Little technical difficulties. There we go. Good.
All right.
Okay. Sorry if you really couldn't hear the first part there. That's good. You talked about the coaching staff a little bit, right?
Right.
You and Coach Wad, I would say you guys have a little bit of a closer relationship, right? Kind of bonded over that 0-9 season, right? You're both a little shorter in stature, so you both kind of know those challenges of playing football when you're a little bit of a smaller guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Coach Wad. You have a better head of hair, though, and I think you would admit that too.
You better.
How much of an impact did he have on you? Not only like as a football player, but like as an individual and as a man as well.
As an athlete, for sure, his biggest impact on me was when he came in my sophomore year to take over the program. He looked at me and, in pads up next to a bunch of giant men, me standing at 5'7", $160.
Remind people at 5'7", $160 what position you played as well. It's not like you played corner.
Yeah, I was a linebacker.
Yeah, not just a
I was a middle linebacker. Yeah. I was in the trenches pretty often.
Yeah.
But even when everything on paper said, this guy's not really a football player, he looked at me and said, you have what it takes to be on a varsity field. And I started out on offense, and then our senior linebacker at the time went down, and he sent me down for a JV game. I'd never played defense in my life before that play. Well, I played, but like it wasn't my thing.
You didn't like take it on, right? Like that was just kind of something that you did if a coach asked you to do. Yeah.
And he sent me down. He's like, hey, we just want to see how you can do. We're short a guy. We want to see if you can, I guess, impact us at the varsity level. And after that game, he brought me up to middle linebacker, arguably the most difficult defensive position, at least physically. again, as a 5'7", albeit little dude, and said, "You have what it takes." So I think that belief really brought me forward.
It like put confidence in you to actually do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If if you get someone that's like, "Oh, you're there to fill a role,"
Yeah.
then you kind of, that becomes your job. Then, "Oh, I'm just here to fill a role." He looked at me and said, "You're our linebacker,"
Yeah.
and that kind of makes you think that, hey, I am a linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can get this done. If he sees it, why can't I see it? So that was really impactful.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's kind of why you get into coaching too, right? To
Mm-hmm.
make that impact on someone.
Exactly.
That belief and give that self-confidence to someone to go and be
Mm-hmm.
their best version of themselves.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
That's a big part of why I want to go into coaching at some point.
Pass that on to someone else
Mm-hmm.
and have that impact with someone.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked about baseball being your first love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of football kind of took that away, right?
Right.
You've played baseball your whole life,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and we'll get to that in a little
Sure.
bit here,
Yeah.
right? What position do you play in baseball?
I was a catcher.
Okay.
I still am a catcher.
Okay. Why catcher? Because growing up playing baseball, you kind of sit in like that like little league room,
Mm-hmm.
and the coach asks who wants to catch today, and it's crickets.
Yep.
No one wants to put that gear on.
Yep.
Why did you?
The story's actually kind of funny. It wasn't exactly because like, oh, I want to catch.
Yeah.
It was growing up, living in Merrill, kind of small town, names get around, and even when you're really young, good athletes start getting a name before they're in high school. My brother was one of those people. Growing up, he was like, I think a number of coaches would attest to it, that would say, "Hey, Alex could be one of our next big guys." I grew up without much athletic ability until about 6th grade, and I made it a point to myself that I don't want to copy him. Matter of fact, not only do I not want to copy him, I'm going to do the opposite. So he was a pitcher his whole life. He was a great pitcher. I said, "Erik, you should pitch. You'd be really good at it. Your brother's good at it." "No, I'm going to catch. Why not? I'll do the complete opposite of what he's doing." And I joined travel team the year after I decided, and they said, "Hey, we need a catcher," and that kind of just solidified it right there.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Catching.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would say with some confidence,
Mm-hmm.
probably the most difficult mentally and physically position on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite part of catching, and what is the most challenging part of catching? It could be the same thing.
A lot of parts are the same thing, but the best part, far and away, is that you are involved in every single play, and especially kind of the way our culture is running now, people are used to fast stimulus and things happening all the time. Why basketball or football are getting a lot of attention. Baseball can be perceived as a boring sport.
Sometimes, yes.
And if you haven't played baseball or grew up watching it or anything,
Mm-hmm.
I can see how you'd think baseball is a boring sport. Catcher, you're in on every single play.
Every single play.
Calling the pitches. You're backing up first. You got to block. You got to throw down. You're doing everything on top of hitting. So it keeps your mind kind of, because I've played outfield a couple of games, and if I was an outfielder every day, I'd say I get bored
Falling
too.
asleep.
Yeah, right. I understand how some of those outfielders get.
You can go an entire game without touching the ball.
Yeah. Catcher, complete opposite.
Yeah, you're touching that ball every single play.
Mm-hmm.
Every single play.
To answer your question, most difficult, physically, obviously, is a big part of that.
Your knees can probably tell you that too.
My knees and hips are much older than I am. My knees.
I think every catcher can probably agree to that as well.
My knees are in horrible shape. But even worse than that, I'd say, is as a catcher, you have to take a pretty big sacrifice, and that is especially offensively. So when it's time for your team's taking batting practice and you're going up against live pitching, somebody's got to catch that pitcher. And because somebody's got to catch that pitcher, the same guy catching that pitcher doesn't get a chance to hit.
Yep.
So a lot of those reps where you're supposed to be getting better and getting used to live pitching, you're not really a part of that.
Yeah.
And it is difficult, especially because if you want to stay in a lineup, offense is probably your best bet.
You can hit, you're going to be in a lineup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when that's taken away from you, I mean, first of all, I think in some ways it helped me because I was always a defense first catcher.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that, but
that's a lost skill in today's catching, by the way.
Yeah, very much so.
That is like a defensive catcher is hard to find nowadays.
Yeah, it's all the catchers in your lineup are the guys that don't want to catch that live pitching and say, "No, I want to go hit."
They're the guys in Little League that when the coach said, "Hey, do you want to catch?" They were like,
"Yeah,
I want to play shortstop."
Yeah. But to put it simply, that is a big sacrifice, and that makes the game sometimes difficult too, because hitting is half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So
also, like, you can kind of look at it two ways too, though. Like, you don't get to hit, but then in like situations, like if you're in a 3-2 count against a pitcher, you kind of have in your head, right? Like absolutely. You kind of know what that catcher's thinking behind you, right? Not necessarily that you got the reps against it, but at least you kind of have a mental edge against that as well.
And even like I'm playing club baseball currently. Even there, you still get to carry some of that over. Okay, how do I call pitches?
Yeah.
What's the kind of, okay, what is this guy probably going to throw me? I'm probably going to get a curveball right now. Sure as hell, curveball.
There it is.
Yep.
That is a lost art, I would say. You don't see many catchers calling their own games anymore.
No.
It's always down in their stance, look over to the dugout, get the call, and then the pitcher throws it, right? Like you don't see many catchers with that knowledge and that mental ability to work their way through a game and kind of understand a lineup and how a guy hits and all that stuff. So,
well, and even bigger than that, I feel is gaining a relationship with your pitchers, knowing their strong suits, and even as a freshman, first year coming into the club, that was one of my first like priorities. Is, hey, what are my guys throwing? What do they throw best? When can we throw this? And then you get to call a game that way, and it ends up working.
So you're kind of like, if I was gonna like relate this to football, like I always try to do. Sorry, you're kind of like the quarterback of the team, right? Like you're the one making all those mental decisions. You're the one creating relationships with your players and knowing how they act in certain situations and stuff. And coincidentally, you played the quarterback position of the defense in football too. So like you kind of have that crossover there.
The interesting thing about, to compare it to football, interesting thing about catcher is while you're the quarterback, you're simultaneously the lineman, which not that the linemen are,
they're the heart and soul of the football team. They are. Let's not get that twisted here. Yeah.
You got the hardest job on the field, and you get very little credit for doing it. Zero love for it. And then on top of that, when you make a mistake, you're first to hear about, oh, get somebody else in here. This guy can't catch or whatever. Like
you could catch 120 pitches in a game, right? You
one
let
pass
one pass ball in, that's all anyone thinks about in that game.
Exactly.
You could call 119 good pitches. You call one bad pitch on you.
Exactly. It's hard. You do have a lot of that pressure of, hey, I get to call the game, but at the same time, you're not getting any credit.
Oh crap! I gotta call the game.
You're not getting any credit for doing it either.
Yeah. All the credit goes to the pitcher, right? Like you never hear when a guy throws a good curveball in a good spot. You never hear like, oh, good call, catcher. Good call, catcher. It's always good pitch, right?
Better didn't see that one coming or anything. No, it's that was a great pitch.
And it's like, okay, it was.
Yeah.
I called it, but it was. Yeah. So, getting into like the little bit more of a difficult conversation about baseball here, right? You played baseball your entire life up until after your sophomore year of high school. You made the difficult decision to step away from baseball for your last 2 years of high school. One, how hard was that to make that decision? And two, how did you do that? Like, how were you able to mentally do that, and why?
So remind me the first question.
You made the difficult decision to step away from baseball.
Oh, how difficult was it?
How hard was it? Yeah.
So after my last season ended, my last high school season ended sophomore year, I was contemplating quitting from the time that game ended to the time the first practice started, it wasn't something I like
Like a rash decision.
exactly. I had to sit and think, is this really best for me? And like, what are the ramifications if I walk away? Like,
Mhm.
is it good? Is it bad? Am I going to regret this in the future? It's a lot of your mind starts ticking a little bit, and it was incredibly hard. Um, my decision basically came down to my mental health. I was in a pretty dark place at the time, and um, kind of the environment around me, I guess, I didn't feel that maybe it would help my mental health. And even though baseball is my love, I knew to put myself first still. So that was kind of the rationale of making that decision. And then simultaneously going out for track, that was kind of my way of keeping it off my mind. That um, so if I just didn't do another sport in the spring, I'd be sitting in bed or going to every baseball game and talking to myself, why did I quit? Why
Yeah.
did I walk away? I hate this. Why would I ever do this? When I did track, it gave me an outlet in a very happy environment, and um, kind of made me feel this was the right choice. If my mental health was my priority, I made the right choice. And I'm happy to say that.
That's for a sophomore in high school, that's a very uh, next level type of thinking to do, right? Like a lot of kids don't have that. I don't know what to call it. That
Capacity,
capacity to do that, right?
maybe.
That's like next level thinking there.
I'm a very self-aware person. And I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
It has its drawbacks, but it, it helps me a
yeah.
lot knowing what's good for me, what's not good for me, and what could be better for me.
So mental health got better. Okay,
A lot better.
we go to college now.
Hmm.
You make the decision like, hey, maybe I want to try baseball again, right? I'm at college. Who cares, right?
Hmm.
It's just the next level.
Right.
What what made you make that decision to give baseball another shot in college?
um, like you mentioned from the beginning, baseball was like my first ever love.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I stepped away from baseball, I almost feel like I paid more attention to baseball after I stepped away. Like I'm watching every single Brewer game and keeping up with the stats and everything. And then I get to college and I see this basically flyer. It's
Mm-hmm.
hey, try out for club baseball. I'd never heard of club baseball or really anything like that. And I'm like, okay, it's not the varsity program. I know I'm not going to go there and get completely disappointed or, shown the door before I even put on the gear or
Yeah.
anything. So I see this tryout for club. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Worst that can happen is they say no, and I'm sitting back watching the Brewers like I am already.
Yeah.
I showed up and albeit had a pretty good tryout, and then got the letter, hey, you made the team. And since then it's been my life at college. It's a lot of fun, and
That's awesome.
I'm
And you're
happy
catching again at
I
college,
am
right? Yeah.
catching. Yep. um yeah, not getting a ton of time, but uh in my own
You are a freshman.
I am a freshman, and the guy playing ahead of me has plans to go play varsity ball at a D1 college. So
Understandably so, sitting behind. Yeah.
right, yeah.
But learning at the same time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot you can gain from watching the guys ahead of you.
So for those that don't know, college baseball is kind of a year-round sport.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
kind of get a
absolutely.
couple months off in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So you had your fall ball season,
Mhm.
right? How was that? How'd that go? How was that kind of getting back into the swing of things?
It, I definitely had to shake off some rust.
Yeah.
Being that I took a 2-year break, and especially that sacrifice I talked earlier about offense, I definitely got to see
You
that
felt that a little bit.
on
Yeah.
the field. Yeah, I was had a bit of a slow start at the plate, but my reason for walking away was my mental health and kind of the environment I was around. This environment that I'm playing around right now is one of the best teams I've ever played for in my life. So, like, even though I'm not playing or doing as much, I'm keeping in contact with my guys out of practice.
Yeah.
And in the dugout, we're having a ton of fun. And
That's part of the fun of baseball, sitting in the
exactly,
dugout with the guys. Yeah.
yeah, and that's any sport you could say is not like any other. Baseball you really get close with your guys because there's so much downtime.
Mhm.
And especially when I'm not playing as much, I have those opportunities to create those relationships and have some laughs and have some fun with the guys, which is really important to me.
Build like deeper relationships.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of gameplay, I'm being that the last couple of practices have gone better for me. I think I'll do a little better this semester. Don't want to get too ahead of myself, but
Yeah.
I feel a lot better.
You don't have that rust to knock off this time.
Right.
You kind of got it out of the way.
Not only that was I didn't do much prep before I got to club ball because I kind of showed up thinking, oh, I took 2 years off. I'm just gonna try out, get my name in there.
Yeah.
Maybe they remember me next year. Then I got the letter, hey, you made the team. It's like, oh God, now I have to work.
Oh crap! What I get myself into?
Yeah, right. So now that I'm prepared for it, I guess I have a little more time.
We'll go a lot better.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this doesn't have to be specific to any age. This could be when you were in T-ball.
Mhm.
What is your favorite baseball memory?
I don't know if I can call out like a specific game
Okay.
or like maybe a relationship I had with a guy or something, but my freshman year during the summer, my older brother Alex coached my junior legion team, and me and Braden Voigt and Nate Brazanowski and the younger guy or the older guys and the guys I grew up playing with, on top of having my brother as a coach, whose first priority in Legion was, guys, this is summer ball. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to take it seriously. We want to win games, but we're not gonna be as intense or maybe as wired as high school ball is.
Yeah.
And
kind of get back to the roots of baseball. Just like have fun.
And that mantra really settled in with the whole team, and we, even though it was more of a loose environment, we wanted to do more because, hey, we're winning, we're having fun. Let's really capitalize on this. Let's get some extra work in and keep going. And that season in general was like that's a summer I'm going to hold for the rest of my life.
That's kind of like going back to like the relationship you said you have with Wad,
Mhm.
and like the impact the coaching staff had on you in football.
Mhm.
Like coaching matters, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
like I know he's your brother, but like that's a special connection, right? That's not a situation that a lot of people get to be in, right?
Mhm.
They don't get their brother getting to coach them and
Right.
playing with childhood friends, and
Mhm.
like that's kind of unique.
Yeah, and kind of going along with that, I can say for kind of a different set of reasons maybe than Wad, Alex was probably one of the best coaches I've had because he was family, so he knew he could be a little tougher on me
Yeah.
and not let me get by with just what I had. So
And you had to go home with him too.
exactly, yeah, yeah. He couldn't drive at this point. He had to take me to and from practice and games, and so
it was like your dad coaching you, but
pretty much, yeah. Because he was closer age to me, he understood kind of the network of the game and what it took to get better. And if he saw me not getting better or making mistakes, he had no problem calling me out for it.
And knew what to say to you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Knew what buttons to push there.
Yeah, having that at-home relationship, it
Like
helped
24/7 coaching. Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. And kind of to go with that, we come home and he would honestly ask me for help sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, I have this lineup set up. Who do you think should go where? And that back and forth between it, because I, not to give Alex any crap, I would like to say I know a little more about baseball than he does. Maybe not as a coach, but about the game in general, so I could kind of give him some help and he could give me some help.
Those are fighting words, Alex.
Yeah. I think today, like as of, what is it today? The 15th, he would probably admit I know more about baseball than he does.
Well, let's see if that's true.
No, okay, let's take it easy.
All right. So we've kind of touched on like the mental health side of things, right? So for those that don't know, we have a club here at school called the Raise Your Voice Club, and the goal of that club is to bring more awareness to mental health, especially in like student athletes, right? Like a population that really struggles and historically has struggled with that. You, I think, proudly can say you're if not saying you're a founder of it, you are a original member of that
Mhm.
club, and you did all of the, you were like on the board, I guess I would say, and like
Yeah,
you went to legislative meetings, and you
two of
shook a lot of
those.
hands and made an impact in that world, right?
Mhm.
Um, why and how did you get so passionate about mental health?
Um, my middle school years were, like a lot of middle schoolers would say, are some of my tougher
Yeah.
years, especially with mental health. I was going through a
Mhm.
lot of depression, and I had some bullying problems for a while. And um, like you said, being an athlete, um, I kind of felt that I wasn't being heard, or I wasn't as considered, or hey, just put your head down. You got to get back out there. You got to keep going no matter what. And that um, I wanted to be kind of a catalyst that, hey, even though I'm an athlete, I do matter. And
Mhm.
even more than that, not even more than that, but simultaneously, um, being a man at the time was like being vulnerable is kind of seen as a bad thing.
It's hard.
And so when I came into high school, I saw advertisement for this club, and I said, maybe I can be the one that brings awareness and looks out to athletes and say, hey, you can talk about your mental health.
Mhm.
Look at men and say, hey, you can talk about your mental health. We're here for you. We want to listen to you. And being that I was around it for so long and got to see the club kind of grow, I'm not going to credit myself directly for this, but I feel like I have a pretty big part in helping men and our student athletes
Yeah.
come forward about their feelings, which is really important in our society.
Yeah, that club is doing a lot now.
They
They
are.
do a
It's
lot.
it's huge.
Yeah, you can still walk through the hallways and see the green bandana
Mm-hmm.
on the
Yep.
backpacks, and
At college, mine's still on my backpack.
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Lights are going off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, um, your experience with the Raise Your Voice Club impacted you
Mm-hmm.
in like your high school years, right?
Sure.
Um, now that you're in college, you kind of got to make that decision about like, hey, what do I want to do with my
Mm-hmm.
life? Um, how did your experience with the Raise Your Voice Club impact your decision on your major and your decision on like your future career path?
Mm-hmm. So for the camera, I'm going into psychology.
Okay.
My goal right now is to become a school counselor. Um, Raise Your Voice, helping that decision. Kind of like I said, being a part of so many of those activities and um, maybe awareness programs,
Yeah.
um, it made me feel that I really was making an impact on some sort of level, and that if I can do that here, that feeling is really important to me. I want to be able to do that for the rest of my life, and not only just in general. I want to help kids and teens and athletes and men and really anyone going through some sort of strife. And being that high school or middle school are the years you're probably feeling that the most, I would really like an opportunity to be able to be one of those people for kids, I guess.
Be the person that you needed in those moments.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that would also help you in that coaching path that you
Yep.
want to take as well,
Yep.
right? Um,
Especially being a school counselor
yeah, exactly.
and creating relationships with athletes off the field.
They kind of go
And
hand in hand, right?
they really
Yeah,
do.
it's kind of like that. There's a lot of crossover between those careers.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of talked about it already, but talking about athletes specifically,
Mm-hmm.
just because, like you said, it's sometimes there's that culture of like, put your head down, just work harder, push through it, it's
Mm-hmm.
fine, get tougher,
Yeah.
all those kind of buzzwords, right? What advice would you give to any of those athletes out there that might be struggling with that internally right now?
So, first and foremost, if you are feeling, especially as an athlete, if you're feeling any sort of strife or self demons or any sort of thing of that matter, reach out first of all to a coach, a friend, a teammate, anything, especially on a team, whether you're, say, super close friends with all the guys on your team out of school or not. Um, you, no matter what, you still have that network around you. Um, I reached out to a number of my teammates who, at the time, I wasn't really close to, and now we're like best friends. And kind of to go with that advice of talking to someone is that understanding other people are going through similar things.
You're not alone.
Exactly. And especially being an athlete, pressure, I think, is one of the biggest emotions you can feel. And if you can reach out to someone who's also feeling that pressure, maybe not the best quote for this, but misery loves company.
Yeah.
It's really true. If you have someone you can relate to, you're going to
Yeah.
start feeling better and brainstorming ways of how we can move past this. And
Two heads are better than one.
exactly.
Yeah, it's knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that you're not the only one going through it, knowing you're not the only one that feels that pressure on your shoulders. That like that can be healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people that have helped you in your mental health journey, a lot, would probably be your family, right?
Absolutely.
You're very close with your family.
I am.
You guys are very like tight knit.
We really are.
You have a tattoo on your arm
I
that
do.
symbolizes that, right? With
Yeah.
your grandpa, right?
Who's still with us,
yeah.
even.
What does family mean to you? How important are they?
It's hard to find words for it, but they're the most important thing in my life, really. And even though I'm going to school far away down in Milwaukee,
believe me, that's probably harder on your mom and your dad than it is on you.
Absolutely, it is. But even though I'm so far away and living this new life and really thriving in this new life, I still have this urge to, when I'm done, I want to come back and be around my family and give my kids that family values I grew up with, because they're really important to me, and I feel like they've shaped
made you who you are. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So in the easiest way possible, my family is the most important thing in my life, and I'm sure some of my college friends could attest to that, because I don't stop talking about them. I got a story about, oh, my dad one time he did this, and after a while, oh, okay. But yeah, my family is fantastic. I love my family.
You have a very close relationship with everyone in your family, essentially.
Yeah.
Who are you closest with in your family, would you say? Or is that like a really hard question?
To choose between my parents, I feel is a little
Don't
unfair.
do that. Don't do
no,
that.
No, absolutely not. But definitely my parents I'm closest to.
Okay.
The most supportive people on the planet. I think you could even attest to that. Every sporting event, every extracurricular, anything in school, they're always there to support. Whether
with a smile on their face and love. Yeah.
Whether they have affiliation or not. And I guess a good example of this, maybe not my parents, but my brother specifically, when I went out and did track for the first time, he'd never seen a track meet in his life, didn't care, had no qualms about track whatsoever. And then I go out for it, and all of a sudden he shows up to like Autobacher and a couple of West meets, and he has no idea what he's there for, but he's there supporting me. And
he loves you. Yeah.
He does, yeah. And that attitude has been with my parents my entire life.
That's where you guys get it from.
Exactly. Yep.
And they get it from your grandpa and your grandparents, right?
Comes passed down.
Not only are your parents the most supportive and at everything you do, but grandparents are also there as well. Yeah. With a smile on their face. Yes.
Always have.
So you might not be able to choose who you're closest with, and this might be a harder question to follow up with. Who has had the biggest impact on you in your family?
In recent years, probably more than anything, especially my high school years, I would say my brother Alex probably had the biggest impact on me.
Okay.
As he went through high school, he started losing his love for sports, which really hurt me to see, being that I watched this guy my entire life. By the time he was like 11, he's already being called up to older teams and being talked about, hey, this guy can make an impact on varsity. And then when he gets there, starts slowly losing his love for the sport, which is really unfortunate to see. The impact he had on me was making sure I never, ever, ever felt that way about what I loved. He made sure that, hey, you love football, we're going to make sure you continue to love football no matter what. And kind of like I said I was doing for the guys last year, he was giving me tips on other teams and, hey, maybe consider this, and I'm proud of you, and we're here for you, and keep doing what you're doing out there. And I feel like his urge to make sure I was loving what I was doing and continue to keep doing that, that pushed me forward in a lot of ways. Almost like a coach.
Yeah, that's kind of like when you're a parent and you have multiple kids. That's kind of what you hope your oldest son or oldest kid can do for your younger siblings. Like that's the role of an older brother, right? To make sure you have it better, to make sure you might not go through some of the hard times that they went through. That's a very selfless thing to do.
He filled
right?
that role very well for me.
Yeah, like even though he was struggling himself and was like struggling currently while he was doing that stuff for you, he had that love for you to make sure that you weren't going through that as well.
No, it was very impactful for
That's
me.
huge, dude.
I'm proud to say that too. And he also has this tattoo.
Family means a lot to you guys.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
To wrap things up here, a little bit of a lighter note here. What is your favorite family tradition that you guys have? Could be something that means nothing to anyone else, but is there something that you guys do all the time that like means something to you guys?
I don't know if you could call it a tradition, but the Brewers in our house is definitely...
That's like religion to you guys.
I was just going to say that. It's close to a religion in our house. We got to see every Brewer game and keep up on the news and this and that, but more of like a real tradition. Anytime me or my brother come home from college, we have family poker night. It's like the pocket change we could find in the couch or in the car. Hey, toss that in, get some poker chips, and we deal cards for like 3 hours and just BS and have fun with the family. It's that's something that's maybe not poker, but cards have been passed down my family since my grandparents were my age. Like,
that's a very Wisconsin thing.
It is,
Northern Wisconsin thing. Yeah.
So and then I go to college and say, hey, you guys want to have poker night? Oh, I don't even know how to play. What do you mean you don't know how to play poker?
That's simple stuff, guys.
Yeah, right?
Let's go.
I've grown up on this my whole life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
That's definitely our best tradition.
All right. Any shout outs or anything you want to say to either your family or anyone in particular here?
I think I've shouted out my family a pretty good amount, but yes, I do love you guys. I love my family back at home. Maybe not anything in particular, but going back to mental health, whether you're an athlete or just, I don't like saying this, but you're a regular everyday person, if you're going through something, please reach out to someone and understand that you do have sources around you to help, and it can make a big difference, that you're not going to feel this forever.
World's a better place with you in it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right. Thanks, dude.
Thank you for having me here. I
Good talk.
appreciate it. Good talk. Appreciate it, man.